Y'all know. Y'all already know, right? Y'all already know because we talked about it. Western Conference Finals is here. And guess who just so happens to be there? The Los Angeles Lakers, baby. Yes, the Lakers and Nuggets will be playing in the Western Conference Finals. We're going to break down the entire matchup, give previews, predictions. I just got to say, I'm very ecstatic. You can't tell in my voice. I'm a little under the weather right now, but I am very, very ecstatic about this, especially since we called this weeks ago on this show. This very show right here, the Justin Henry show. We said, you know what? Lakers could be headed to the Western Conference Finals. Matt goes, you know what? I think you're right, Justin. I hate to say it, but I think you're right. And I said, you know what, Matt? Yes, I am. I am right. And guess what? We were right. Lakers are headed to the Western Conference Finals. Should be a great series with the Nuggets. Also, my boy Tatum did dirt yesterday. We definitely got to talk about Jason Tatum dropping 51 on the Sixers' head while Ben Simmons is in his villain arc and is at his home, feet up, watching it all happen. We got to talk about that. And Ja Morant, man, there's been I am gravely concerned for Ja Morant and the path that he's heading down right now. It's not good. And as somebody who has said, you know what, young men, they got to be able to make mistakes and grow from it. This is something that he obviously has not grown from and has the wrong people around him. So we got to talk about Ja Morant, unfortunately, what it looks like for him. Suspension, is that possibly on the way? But for me, obviously the weekend has been gone. So I want to talk about this Lakers team. And, and I waited, we kind of made like a joke of this, of like, this is the only thing we talk about, or, I have to wait to talk about them. But this Lakers team, man, and they're tied right now with the Nuggets as the favorites to come out of the Western Conference. This series, I think this is going to be a quicker series than people think. This isn't the fan talking. The Lakers as an organization, massively, this might have been the best trade deadline that any team has ever had. And I say that because the pieces that were added, what was given up, players that were disgruntled, all the negative pieces, the Pat Bevs, the Russell Westbrooks, players that didn't matter. And to acquire what Rob Pelinka did for this Lakers organization at the deadline, it wasn't just a heist. It was literally cherry picking players, the exact players that he wanted. Rui Hachimura for almost nothing, right? Russell Westbrook was traded. The return was D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, and Jared Vanderbilt. Jared Vanderbilt's become one of the defensive anchors for this Laker team. D'Angelo Russell has hit clutch point after clutch point. Meanwhile, what was Russell Westbrook? Cut immediately after the trade. This isn't just a finesse. This literally has to go down as one of the best trade deadlines ever in NBA history. And I'm not just saying that lightly. So when I look back at this, we're all going to talk about how LeBron's great. We're all going to talk about AD and, the way that he's elevated his level of play defensively, especially during these playoffs. We're talking about how the Lakers came from the 7th seed and did numbers, and they were the 12th seed early on. We're going to laugh how Pat Bev and Russell Westbrook could potentially get rings if this thing goes all the way. But the thing we definitely cannot skip on is the fact that this might have been the greatest trade deadline moves ever in NBA history. And I don't say that lightly. I got to bring, you know what? It brings us back because Bubble Vibes is here. My guy Matt's probably going to tone me down a little bit. But Matt, hop in the show, bruh. I see you traveling on the road, my man. Am I a little out of pocket right now, or am I right on base?
They did it. They did it, Justin.
They did. They did. They did. They did. Yo, I was so happy, bro. I was sick, but I was like on my bed, but like happy.
Dude, well, that Austin Reeves buzzer beater was just like, oh my gosh. The second that left his hand, I was like, that's going in, isn't it? Yeah. And just the atmosphere, the fact that, Golden State, they tried to keep in that game. They just couldn't get stops on defense. And the Lakers just kept coming and coming. And, Curry could only do so much. Klay Thompson, we talked about Game 6 Klay. I said Game 6 Klay was going to show up, and the wrong version of Game 6 Klay showed up.
Tell me, am I just going crazy right now? Because my thought on this is that the Lakers right now, lengthwise, are one of the longest starting fives in the league. You got D-Russ, LeBron, Vandy, AD. Like, it's a long team. Austin Reeves is 6'6" himself. Offensively, they can shoot the ball. They can get to the paint. They can get free throws. They can rebound the basketball. So all three phases of offensively, defensively, and fast in transition, they're elite. Now look at the Nuggets, who got Jokic. They got MPJ and Jamal Murray, and they play at home. They're a good team. But the Lakers are the best team left in the playoffs right now. Tell me I'm wrong.
I don't think you're wrong at all. And I think the only thing the Lakers don't have going for themselves is the fact they don't have home court advantage. I mean, I think if they go into game 1 or they go into game 2 and steal one in Denver, I think suddenly, it's a Lakers series to lose. Now, we obviously got to see how this thing plays out. But, the Lakers, as you said before, this is not a Laker team. I don't think anyone expects it to pan out this well, yet it has. And we're sitting here and we're realistically talking about this team going to the finals.
The finals. I love it. One series away. Where are you at right now?
I'm in Savannah, Georgia.
I was gonna say that ain't the normal background there, Matt.
No, it's not at all. This is nothing close to. I got a ring light. I'm on my iPhone. I got AirPods in.
I like it.
Hey, we're making it work. It's Monday. I couldn't not come on here after you guys just went to the conference finals. Are you kidding me?
We did call this out weeks ago. Both you and I were in agreement. It's not like you, because I say a lot of things on the show, Matt. You could have been like, nah, Justin, you tripping. Nah, but you was like, you know what? I kind of agree with you there. And sure enough, we were spot on. And it's kind of it feels like a storyline almost writing itself for this entire year. LeBron gets the scoring record, year 20, not 21, not 19. It's year 20. Bill Russell, he unfortunately passed. The Celtics seem to be rising. Excuse me. Celtics seem to be rising. Both teams are tied at 17 championships. It's the story, the two most storied franchises in all of history. The year LeBron breaks the scoring record after playing teams happen to be in the Western and Eastern Conference Finals. The bubble rematch. Scott Foster probably officiating Game 7. Can we write this thing any better?
No, we got a script straight from Hollywood right now. And as an NBA fan, what more can you want?
Like, it feels it's good, man. And obviously the Nuggets are in here too. We can't just discredit the Nuggets. No. And they had a tough series against the Suns. And we talked about some of the stuff that comes after that. We'll get into all the playoff previews and predictions for both of these series. But the Suns, man, fired Monty Williams over the weekend. And we talk about calling stuff, Matt. You said that on this show, bro. You said, Monty Williams, I'm looking at you, man. What were your thoughts when it happened?
I think a lot of that stems from like new ownership, right? And the fact that NBA coaches just, it's so easy. Like in no other league are coaches getting fired after going to the finals, after winning a championship. And I looked at the Suns team and I thought to myself, like, maybe there is something going on in the locker room. What's going on with DeAndre Ayton? Does Monty Williams have the support of all of his players? Does the new ownership think that, hey, maybe if we brought in like a Nick Nurse, he could get us to that final step? I mean, there's no question, Monty brought more success to that Phoenix Suns team than since my lifetime, since I started watching basketball. And what he did was incredible. And it's sad to see him go because he seems like such a great guy, man. He really does.
He knows the game too. Like former player, like he deserved that spot. And I mean, he had this team in the finals and it's like just kind of went to waste. The new owner, Matt Ishba, he decided to let him go. And so it looks like they're looking for a change of scenery. There's probably not going to be just him. Probably going to be Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton. It looks like massive changes coming for the Phoenix Suns. It didn't feel like they were that far away. It didn't. And I feel like they got beat by a better Denver Nuggets team. But what do you do? In that scenario, as an owner, if you're trying to get wins, you probably feel disrespected. Maybe you're like, it's time to make changes. I think it's a little bit of a rash decision. Honestly, I think you could have gave Monty Williams another year. Probably could get rid of Chris Paul. Probably see if the Ayton, Monty Williams thing can be figured out. But coaches go a little bit easier than players do. You just signed DeAndre Ayton to a massive deal. It's tougher to get rid of him. So shout out to Monty Williams. I know he'll find another gig. There's a couple big big openings right now. And there may be another one in Philadelphia where we see Doc Rivers blow another 3-2 lead.
Are we really surprised, Justin?
Are we? Doc Rivers blows another lead. Like, at what point do we just say Doc Rivers is an average coach? I'm here to say it. Doc Rivers is mediocre. He doesn't make adjustments. He had a 3-2 lead. He's had massive 3-1 leads before that he's blown. Doc Rivers has the most losses in playoff clinching scenarios in NBA history. 33 losses in those scenarios where he has a chance. His team has a chance to win the game. And we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to keep giving Doc Rivers a pass from his Celtics days. Doc Rivers, you're not an elite coach. I'm sorry, I hate to say it. You were a good player. You've been a good coach your entire career, but you're handing, I mean, this is a process team that was expected to do so well in the Eastern Conference. What do? They continue to let everybody down.
And it's one of those things where, let's say the 76ers do fire him, right? When you're looking for a new head coach, in the back of your mind, you're thinking okay, maybe this guy can get us to the playoffs. Yeah, he's a decent coach, but when it comes to winning, he obviously is not part of that formula. And my question for the 76ers is, this whole process thing is done, and it has been done. And I'm assuming, James Harden's going to be gone, and I don't think they can win with just Joel Embiid and the guys around them. Philadelphia, man, that was just, God, I really thought when they went up 3-2, I was like, they're going to do it. I really, really, really thought in my heart, I said they were going to win game 6 and they were going to go to the conference finals, but
they didn't have it in them. Once the Celtics stole game 6, I knew it was over. And we saw Tatum break out. We'll talk about Tatum here in a little bit. But yeah, it's like, when you talk about I love the process, right? There's ways that you go through the process, right? Say you have some cheese. You got the milk and you curdle it up. I'm sure there's a process, right? And that's what you coin it. Coin it the process. But by the time the cheese comes out, it's called processed cheese. It's done. The Sixers are processed. They are done. This team is going to get blown up next year. Doc Rivers is out. Harden is out. Tobias Harris is probably out. The only player that's probably going to be left standing is Joel Embiid, wondering who the hell am I going to get to blame this time, because that's all he does is blame everybody else for his transgressions. So I don't want to hear nothing from this team anymore. The process is over. We aren't talking process no more. Let's get into the Sixers stuff a little bit later. The one thing we want to address before we get into the NBA conference finals that we're going to be talking about for the majority of this program. Ja Morant, man. And I talked about at the top of the show. I've been a big advocate for Ja Morant, who was seen on Instagram Live yet again flashing a gun in a scenario that he shouldn't have been in. Now, there's a bunch of skeptics out there who are going to say, well, it's just a gun. He can legally own a gun and he can legally have a gun. We see other players. If there was another player that had a rifle in a hunting scenario, what would we say about them, right? But what Ja Morant is doing is very different than just having a gun possessed on camera, anything like that. Ja Morant just previously got suspended 8 games for this craziness, for being a little too wild. Ja Morant has recently beat up a teenager. Little violence we're talking about here. We're not just talking about a first-timer. Ja Morant has had other people in his circle point red lasers at opposing teams. This isn't a first offense, Ja Morant. This is a supposedly I went to Florida. I went to rehab. I'm a new person. I did an interview with Jalen Rose. This is supposed to be a new Ja Morant. And here we are, a month after the season's over. Not even a month after the season's over for the Memphis Grizzlies. Not 2 months after he was just suspended 8 games for this exact same reason. We see him in a clip, holding a clip. It's not a good thing. This is very bad for Ja Morant. And one of the things that we're going to look at is this a career ruiner? Because he's going to be suspended, and it's going to be massive. It'll be at least half the season, in my opinion. I think it'll at least be half the season. If it's less than that, the league probably did themselves a shame. It has to be more than a half a season. I hate it because I love the guy. I think Ja Morant is good for the league when he's playing. He's bad for the league when he's doing this shit off the court.
No, I completely agree. And, I think the NBA is looking like before all this, they were looking at John Morant as one of their next like poster boys, one of their superstars because he's such a fun and entertaining player to watch. And the fact that, he would do something so stupid after everything that's happened over the last 2 months. I mean, he was in the news for all the wrong reasons. All this stuff came out about like, oh yeah, he went to Florida, he's gotten better. Even in the playoffs, he had some great games. He looked, there was that Lakers game where he had like what 30 points or whatever in the second half. I mean, there's no question the talent on the court, but endorsements gone. Goodbye. See you later. Like the Memphis Grizzlies are probably thinking to themselves like, we can only do this so much, and John Morant's really, really, really put the entire organization and the NBA in a really bad light.
It's one of those things, man, where you're just like, how many you really want to see the guys succeed? Like Nike, I think there was a lot of questions even with Nike when it first happened. Are they going to part ways with Ja? He had just released a shoe. And they're like, are we going to part ways? And it was like, we're going to give it this time to settle. He's going to end up losing that Nike deal.
He is. Yep.
Unfortunately, he is. But how many chances do you give somebody with, good charisma? The character seems like it's there when we're not talking about these isolated incidents. It's just, what do you do with somebody like that who doesn't want to help themselves? So I've talked about, this path can go a number of ways for John Morant, and he can turn around and we can look at this in a few years and be like, man, remember that time when John Morant almost lost everything? And now look at him. I want to see that story more than I want to see, man, John Morant is blank. There's a lot of words you could use to fill in that blank.
What's crazy too, Justin, is like there's almost two different sides of John Morant. There's the John Morant that, on the court, his dad's always there courtside. You see his daughter all over social media. He almost looks like he's like this family man, right? He's got his entire family, this circle. And then there's the John Morant off the court that's doing all this stuff. And I just cannot wrap my head around it.
I can remember what it was like to be young, man. Like I was, it's a long time ago for you, a long time. This is a long time, but I didn't always hang around the best people. I didn't always make the smartest decisions. I wasn't always professional. I mean? There's times where you slip up and you do things, but the one thing that I tried to at least do in my life, I try to teach my kids this now that I am older, is to learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
You can be an idiot once. Sometimes even twice. You can be a dummy. Hey, that was a stupid decision.
Yeah.
But to keep making the same mistakes over and over again, you're not just an idiot. That's not the right thing to do. And so when it comes to job, man, I'm kind of watching until I see some major changes from his end. I really am not going to be advocating for him as a player. I'm not really tuned into him. If my son wanted his shoes, I'm not really interested in being like, hey, go get these Ja shoes, go get this Ja jersey. Nah, I'm telling my son that's what you don't want to be. And unfortunately, the NBA needs role models. Charles Barkley once notably said, I'm not a role model. That's fine. You don't got to be a role model. You can live your life. I'm just not putting my son, if I'm looking at it, that's the last person I want to be a role model for my kids. So unfortunately, Ja, until you get things right, bruh, I hope you do. And I think there's a world where Ja does get right. That's what I want to see more than anything.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see anything.
And Justin, I'm not like the biggest LeBron James fan in the world, but it makes me just appreciate everything about LeBron James and the person that LeBron James is, and the fact that he's been in the spotlight since he was 16 years old or whatever, and he's been so great for the NBA, and he's been such a great role model to kids all around the world. Like I think when stuff like this comes out about these young, because we forget how young these guys and still have to go to college for. Even LeBron didn't even have to go to college. It just makes me kind of take a step back and really appreciate all that.
Sometimes you got to go through it. And I'm really, for LeBron, like you mentioned, the longevity, just what he does off the court, pretty much radio silence when it comes to controversy. Big ups to LeBron. But I'm not for players. I'm not like the person that's going to be, you know what? You made a mistake. You're a terrible person. I'm throwing you under the grave. Like I'm normally never like that. When you mess up the first time, you get the pass and everybody's already been on it. This is proof that you are a problem. You are the problem, Ja. When are you going to fix it? So let's get into some real hoop, man. I don't like getting on these guys, man, but it's like, it's frustrating to see when you see the potential there and you're like, I wish there could be so much more from him just as a player. Like focus on getting better. Focus on doing more dirt so you're in the conference finals like these guys we're about to talk about. The bubble ring is now validated. You can't say anything else.
Nope.
All 4 teams that were in the bubble ring conference finals are back here in 2023. I don't want to hear no more bullshit about the bubble ring didn't count.
Justin, what do you think are the chances that Miami can beat Boston? Because I see everyone, like, even the odds for them, it's like, crazy, because this Miami team has looked so good throughout the through the postseason. And Boston, on the other hand, has really struggled. And I know, these last like 5 quarters, Jason Tatum's looked like, or 4 quarters, 5 quarters, Jason Tatum's looked like the best player in all of the NBA. But I really think Miami has a shot here.
You do.
I do.
Let me hear it. Because I'm gonna drop the hammer. I gotta hear your take first.
I think Boston is incredibly, like, you don't know what Celtics team you're gonna get. Even in Game 7, that third quarter changed everything. It was a close game in the first half. Then Boston just blew it open in the third quarter. Philadelphia couldn't score. I think Jason Tatum outscored them himself in the third quarter. And I think Miami's going to come out with an edge. I think, Jimmy Butler, we're going to see more of the Jimmy Butler that we saw against Milwaukee, against a team that he knows he's an underdog against. These other guys are stepping up. The value of having Kyle Lowry, somebody that's been there before. I don't know. I think these teams are starting to think too, like, what's the storyline? Where's Tyler Hero at? Like, is there a chance they could get Tyler Hero back if they go to the finals? I mean, that would be such a huge boost. I think no one's even talking about the fact that Miami's doing this without Tyler Hero.
Doing it without Tyler Hero. The problem I have with Miami is when I look at their opponents, they beat the Bucks, kind of shell-shocked the Bucks initially. Giannis got hurt. He came back. He wasn't the same yet. That team lost, and it felt more like, and I've never been this guy, like a team loses instead of a team wins, but it definitely felt like Milwaukee, with all their firepower, it would have been a different series. Jimmy Butler went heroic, played himself. He played a hell of a series, that entire series, 30 and 40-point games every series. And then against the Knicks, after the ankle injury, we didn't really see like true playoff Jimmy. It was more so the Kyle Lowry stepping up, the Kevin Love stepping up, the Caleb Martin stepping up. Like, there's a lot of other guys who have been stepping up in those scenarios for the Heat. So when I look at it, it's like they play the Knicks, they hurt Bucks team. If they're playing the Celtics at full strength, I don't see, with this inconsistent even as the Celtics are, I don't see a way that the Heat can win this series. The Celtics can go on the road and win in Game 6 scenarios. We've seen them down 3-2 multiple times. So with their back against the wall hasn't really phased this team. But the problem is the Celtics team is deep as hell.
Yeah, they are.
They're deep on the wing. They're deep in the post. Rob Williams is back. He's been a massive factor for this team in that Sixers series in Game 6 and Game 7. Rob Williams played a huge role keeping that team locked and loaded. The wings are there, and I was worried about the Heat. Really, what depth do they have? Kevin Love, Kyle Lowry haven't seen these kind of minutes all season long. They're getting extended minutes. Can they continue to play at this level, or are they going to tail off? I think the Celtics, this might be a quick series for the Celtics.
Okay.
I think this might be a very quick series for the Celtics. I think both series might be quick, but we'll get into the Lakers series. But yeah, I with the way Tatum is playing, especially if he can stay locked in like this and he's playing that confident, Jaylen Brown is playing well. I just don't know if the Heat have enough firepower. They normally play a slower pace. I don't know if they got enough firepower to keep up with the Celtics.
I hope they can. I want to see Jimmy Butler back in the finals.
Playoff, that would be crazy if it was a Lakers Heat redemption arc story. Yeah, like from the 8 seed and the 17, both play-in teams make the NBA finals. Now, you're really, I could tell you're in on Miami. What is it about them that makes you think that they can beat the depth of the Celtics? That's the one area I have. And I know Jimmy Butler's put up these Herculean efforts before, but I see him like there might be a struggle there with Tatum, Jaylen Brown on the outside, Marcus Smart. Like, they have a lot of defenders there for the Celtics. What is like that one key piece you think needs to happen in order for the Heat to win?
It's the fact that I don't trust the Boston Celtics as much as I think a lot of people do. And that stems from me watching the first round matchup against the Atlanta Hawks. That Hawks team, that Game 6 was extremely close up until the final, like, 3 or 4 minutes. I mean, Atlanta had a real chance there, and that game was going 7. I think I think Boston could come out flat Game 1 or Game 2. Miami could steal one. Suddenly we have ourselves a series. I don't know. I think Jimmy Butler is going to raise his game because of the opponent. Nothing against the New York Knicks, but I think in the back of his head, he knew I don't have to go for 40 a night and we can still beat New York. I think he realizes I'm going to have to go out there. I'm going to have to be playoff Jimmy Butler to beat Boston. And I think that's something that he can do. I also think, like, if you're Jimmy Butler, you're thinking to yourself, like, man, I just need that ring, right? I just got to get
Yeah.
myself that ring. He's not getting any younger. They're in the conference finals again. He gets that ring, that solidifies the Jimmy Butler legacy. To me, he's already, one of my favorite players of all time. I think, he has everyone's respect. But getting a ring, I think, would change everything. But hey, you never know. Boston might come out, shoot lights out, lock down on defense. Like you said, their depth, that's the scariest part to me, is just the depth of the Boston Celtics. And they could throw guys at you nonstop all 48 minutes.
I think the X factor for this Heat team is Bam Adebayo. If he can somehow, because he's been super inconsistent as well. So when I look at the bigs for the Celtics, it's like even if Horford's off, Rob Will's there. Rob Will's off, Horford's there. Tatum's off, Brown. If Smart's off, we got Brogdon, Derek White. It's like there's always balance, it feels like, with the Celtics. If Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Kyle Lowry, Caleb, they don't play their roles, there's no chance. If two of them are off, it's done data for the Heat that game. So they need those guys to be locked in for 4 games. And Bam is going to have some tough matchups against Al Horford and Rob Will. So if Bam can be consistent and be like the Bam of 2020, that was a different Bam than we've been seeing lately. So he played like that in Game 6 against the Knicks. That's the Bam that we need to see for the rest of this series against the Celtics here in order for them to have a chance. My prediction, I think the Celtics win in 5 at home in Boston. I think they win the first 2. They'll still win in Miami, come back to Boston, win that one, Celtics in 5.
I'm going Heat in 7. I got to back up my words. I'm not going to backtrack here. It's a scary prediction, but you know what? I think I said Milwaukee in 5. So I slept on this team. I doubted them early on. I'm now on the Miami Heat bandwagon, and I'm gonna pick them to go to the NBA Finals.
All right, so I got Celtics in 5. You got Heat in 7. And normally I wouldn't do that to the Heat because the Heat are one of the toughest teams, very well coached by Spo. They're one of the toughest teams to knock out of the playoffs, I would say. They are tough. They're resilient. I think this Celtics team hasn't beat lesser teams, I would say, the Hawks. And, the Sixers, it took them 7 and 6 games to beat those guys. So I'm going on a limb here. Celtics in 5 is my pick. Matt, you got Heat in 7. Let's move over to the Western Conference, where we got the Lakers and we got the Nuggets. Now, this series is expected to be a dogfight. Both of these teams are tied to be the favorites right now to win the NBA championship, which says a lot about the West. Both have gone through pretty tough paths in order to get here. The Nuggets fought off a rising Timberwolves team that was just getting healthy, and then going to beat the Suns, who were considered the Western Conference favorites by a lot of people. Lakers beat Memphis in decisive series, and then also beat a Warriors team that a lot of people did not count out, right? A lot of people thought the Warriors had a chance to go in there and really steal that series. They didn't. So we got Lakers, we got Nuggets, we got LeBron, we got Jokic, we got deep teams, we got talent. How you feel about this one, Doug?
I think you said this on Friday. There's a very good chance this is the NBA Finals. Like, whatever team wins, this Western is going to end up winning the whole thing. And to me, Denver proved that they can win on the road, right? In a big game. They went to Phoenix and just blew them out of the building. The Lakers have done it throughout all of the playoffs, winning on the road, stealing a game and going from there. So I'm really interested. These first 2 games in Denver are going to be so fun to me. If Denver goes up 2-0 and we head back to LA, it might be a different story. If LA can steal one, suddenly I think it's their series to lose. I'm so excited, like the Jokic, Anthony Davis matchups, like Jamal Murray, like how is he going to play? Obviously LeBron, the players. I mean, there's a million storylines in this conference finals.
There's a lot. And, the bubble, looking back at like the bubble championship, Western Conference finals, that was a really good series, by the way. Like the Nuggets were just outpowered by the Lakers, it felt like, but we saw a big shot from 80. That's when we got that I'm him after he hit the dagger 3. So I feel like there's going to be some kind of theatrics in this series too, because both these teams are too talented for there not to be a really close game in the series. But the one thing LeBron's been able to do, the Lakers have been able to do, but it's a knack that LeBron has done his entire career, is go in and steal a game on the road when he's an underdog. Now, I almost feel like that benefits the Lakers because now you go in, you have the momentum. Once you've stolen one game from Denver, who's been elite at home, and at thin air, they've been elite all season long. If you can go steal one, where the Lakers have not lost a home game this entire postseason, Now you're in the driver's seat. And so when I look at it, I feel like the Lakers can do that. This is the type of team that senses, hey, if it's not game one, we got to steal game two. But if we steal game one, the series is ours. So there's a lot to be had there, man. I think that the Lakers do that. They're a tough, talented team in the one area defensively. I would say this team is elite defensively. They have somebody who can guard Jokic. They have someone who can guard Jamal Murray. They have someone who can guard MPJ. The three offensive keys for this entire thing that the Denver Nuggets are those three players offensively. It's Jokic is basically the meat and potatoes. They got the two side dishes there, and Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray. Unless Jamal Murray's dropping 40 on the Lakers' head, which I don't see, who else is going to step up? KCP, Bruce Brown, Ryan Brown. But it's like, for me, I think that the Lakers are just too deep defensively, offensively in order to make things happen. My official prediction, Lakers in 5. Lakers in 5.
I'm going Lakers in 6.
So you're liking the Lakers just in 6 to win it on their home floor?
I think they're going to win it on their home floor. I do. For me right now, I think the Lakers are the best team remaining. I think that you got to give them, in terms of if I was going to make a prediction right now for the finals, I would say it's going to be the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, I think Denver is going to be it's going to be a dogfight, and I really hope we do get some close finishes. Like I want to see a buzzer beater so bad.
Yeah.
Because some of these games have been blowouts recently, especially in like game 7s or game 6s. Like that Suns game, I thought for sure there was no part of me that ever thought for a second that game, they'd be pulling Booker and Durant with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So I want a good series, but I think ultimately the Lakers are going to win this thing.
Well, it's been setting up like that. The first series against Memphis was in 6. Then against the Warriors, it's in 6, right? And it kind of has this theme. The Lakers go steal one of the early games on the road, and they finish up at home, take care of the home games. But the reason why I think they might steal the first 2 games in Denver. And I think they might lose a home game. Like, I think at the end of this, it's going to be 3-1 leaving LA. And the momentum is going to be such in the Lakers' favor that they're just going to take game 5. And so I know that Denver's been super tough at home. I just don't think that they'll have an answer for what AD is going to be able to do to Jokic. Like, if AD can lock the best defensive player in the league, in my opinion, best defensive player in the league is Anthony Davis when he's healthy. And if he can go in there, shut down Jokic, which nobody's been able to do, it changes the series. Give me the Lakers in 5. You got the Lakers in 6. Official prediction right now, I got Lakers Celtics. You got Lakers Heat.
There we go.
Bet. So we got our finals preview on deck now as ready as well. So we could even start at that if we needed to. Just get the finals ready right now, right? Yo, couple little side notes though from the NFL, and then a couple side notes from the NBA too. Saquon Barkley, he got that franchise tag, and it kind of pissed me off when it happened because they had a decision to make. It was like franchise Daniel Jones and pay Saquon, or pay Daniel Jones and franchise Saquon. And they franchised Saquon Barkley. And I was like, the offense without Daniel Jones could probably still work. The offense without Saquon Barkley it's nothing. It's literally nothing. Like, so, I think the Giants probably realized that. They're like, hey, we can work on extension in the offseason. They initially offered him a $14 million deal. He said no. Christian McCaffrey makes $16 million. I think he deserves that or more. And that's what he wants. He wants $16 million. You think he's going to get it?
I think he should get it. I don't think he's going to get it, though.
You don't think he's going to get it?
I don't think he's going to get it. I don't.
You think they're tightwads over there in New York, huh? They don't like spending.
They don't like spending, and I hate to say it, but with Barkley's injury history, I think there are some risks with that. No, I think when he's healthy, you can make the case that he's the best.
What injuries? See, I always hated that. What injuries did Saquon have? He missed that year.
He had what? He tore his ACL. I think did he tear his ACL?
Tore his ACL. And he came back the next year.
Was it against? I think it was against the Bears that he tore his ACL. I could be wrong on that. I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, it was something. And then against Dallas, he rolled his ankle. He stepped on somebody's foot and rolled his ankle. So I don't.
Maybe the injury's an out. I think it's maybe more of the running back position.
That's that media shit. See, Matt, you've been watching too much TV. watching too much TV. Saquon's been all right. Health-wise, I'll say. Health-wise. But when he's healthy, he's one of the top backs in the league, if not the top back in the league, right? I think he deserves to get $16 million, at least. Like, you got to pay these running backs. He's the best player on that team offensively. He's the core of the offense. So pay him like that. And
do you think he'll get it?
What'd you say?
Do you think he'll get it?
Yes, I think they have to give it to him.
Okay. Okay.
I think they have to. This is one of those things where it's negotiating. And you're like, oh, we think you're worth this. And then you're like, oh, I'm worth this. I know I'm worth this. And then they come back to you. They're like, you know what? You're right. You are worth that. And I think that happens with this team because they went and got receivers. They went in and signed, they locked in Daniel Jones. They got everything they needed there. They have to get Saquon on board because last thing they could deal is with the holdout, especially with the NFC East as competitive as it is. Philly, Dallas, they can't afford Saquon Barkley to not be all in. I think he's in, ready to go. So I think he'll get paid. I think they give him a long-term deal. They got to do right, man, because running backs, for the most part, don't get treated right. They got to. You know what position always got treated right? Quarterback. And Matt Ryan is still getting paid by the Colts this season $12 million. Bro, he's getting paid $12 million by the Colts still this season. And Saquon's having to beg for $14, $16 million. It makes no sense.
No,
none at all. But yet still, Matt Ryan getting paid $12 million this season to be on the bench by the Colts to be cut. But then also, he got a job with CBS. So he'll be in the studio. He said he's not retired, though, with the winky eye. What's the winky eye? What you think he means by that? Like, not retired, wink, wink, because I'm still getting paid?
yeah.
Like,
I mean, here's the thing, dude. If I was getting 12 mil just to like hang out, I'd do whatever. I'd do all the side missions in the world. I mean, you're not worried about money. It's kind of funny. It reminds me of when Sean Payton was in the booth, and it's like everyone's kind of wondering, like, is this guy going to come back to football? You know, I think for the most part, Matt Ryan's career is over, and
yeah.
I would love to go broadcast. Are you kidding me? That if I'm an NFL QB, dude, I'm like, sign me up. Like, you know what? I'll so much better than on the field.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Aikman has the blueprint. You just go out there and you just talk about the game every day. Tony Romo put the little twist on it. And now all these guys, Brady's turning down offers to be in the booth. $375 million. He's like, I'm not sure I want to do that. Let me go own the Raiders real quick. Let me just go own the Raiders. It's fine. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that, and that's, I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that. You know, it probably was out there on Twitter somewhere, but I saw Brady was looking to get part ownership of the Raiders. Now it makes sense. The Tuck rule. He already owns the Raiders. I just thought about that. I don't know if that was already there. That's probably been said by somebody in the space, but it literally just clicked in my head. Another instance of Tom Brady owning the Raiders. It kind of reminds me of like when Shaq was like, let me buy a piece of the Kings just so he could own them a little bit more. It felt a little the same way there. So Tom Brady, you think Tom Brady part of the Raiders? I didn't think that would be like, I guess going to join Josh McDaniels, having him in the building there is probably a good thing. Vegas. Go to Vegas whenever you want, right?
Hey, you know what? Who knows with Tom Brady? I think none of us can get a read on Brady anymore these days.
None of us know he'll try to suit up at some point too.
Oh, he will.
Like when 100%. He's 50. Like, in a year when he's 50. All right, last tidbit I got for today, man. We didn't talk about the Warriors and the way that they went out. You know, obviously the Lakers won, but this was end of the season for the Warriors. And it kind of felt like the end of the era for the Warriors too. We sensed like Jordan Poole wasn't really all in, had a terrible game. Dre's commenting on literally everything after the game on the mic and in the the press conference. And Clay, Clay just he did not. Game 6 Clay was an afterthought, man. I was kind of laughing about it, during the game. You just realize he's putting up brick after brick, and it's like this is not the same Klay Thompson after the injuries. I feel bad, man. I really, I don't feel bad as a Laker fan. I'm lying. I don't feel bad, but you kind of realize like the shit's over. The Warriors are done, and it really feels like it. They're gonna have to embrace the youth movement. A lot of changes are coming this offseason.
No, I think for me, you're obviously different because you're a Lakers fan, but like watching the end of a dynasty, it was part of me was kind of like sad about it because looking back at all these memories that these guys and this core has put together for me throughout my childhood and growing up, like, when I was in high school, when I really started getting into basketball, like middle school, high school, it was the Warriors, man. It was all Warriors. You tune into a Warriors game, you watch Steph, Clay, Dre, obviously they had KD for some time there. And you eventually realize that these guys are getting older. And you know what, man, I think I know there's a lot of talks where they're like, oh, we can still run it back. We still feel, I don't know if it was Bob Myers that said it, but they're like, we still feel like we have a top 5 player in the league in Curry. Klay Thompson's still going to be Klay. We got all these guys, but I think the luxury tax is crazy over there if they try to do something with it. And I just don't think they're good enough anymore. Like, I just don't. Klay Thompson looked like a shell of himself. Steph Curry looked fantastic. Steph's still Steph, which I'm grateful for because, just appreciating everything that he's done for the game of basketball. But there's going to be some major moves all across the NBA, but especially in Golden State.
It's funny is normally this Warriors team, they win and they say winning cures everything. So we don't really hear a whole lot from the Warriors as far as the organization and like a lot of people complaining. Normally it's pretty tight in house. We heard Steve Kerr say, we're not a championship team. That means something has to change immediately. Because teams want to win a championship. If you're X amount of dollars over the luxury cap, the highest team in the league, changes are going to happen. Cuts got to be made. Jordan Poole was non-existent on a big deal. They just signed him to an extension this last offseason. What do you do with him? Steph Curry was very, very, you could see him on the sidelines kind of looking at Poole, talking with Poole. There's a friction right now between at least him and just Jordan Poole. What do you do with Steph? Clay, the day after they lose, they say, hey, in order to play with us next year, you got to be on a pay cut. Draymond in a press conference says, or in a presser after the game says, oh, I want to stay, but Bob Myers maybe doesn't want me here. Oh, we got to be better. Like Dre's talking a lot, and it's not just on the podcast. This is out in the open for everybody to hear. We've always heard the Warriors be very tight-lipped about this thing through the process. But I know Rich Paul is Draymond's agent. He's not taking less. He's going for a bigger dollar. It's his last contract. Clay isn't going to be on the, I'll take less money to stay here type thing. He wants a bigger role. He doesn't think he's washed. I don't know, man. I look at it holistically and I'm like, you know what? We might have just saw the last game those guys ever played.
It's crazy. And a lot of it, like you think back to, the Warriors season with, Draymond punching Jordan Poole in the face, like a lot of this stuff I feel like was looming and it was a matter of time. And like you said, winning does cure everything. And the fact that they went out, they lost the Lakers. I was honestly kind of surprised. I thought we were going to see Draymond at the Lakers after party because,
BFS with LeBron. He's probably going to be at the games, at the conference games, cheering on him.
He's totally going to be there. But no, it's going to be a big offseason for Golden State.
Yeah, big offseason for Golden State, man. Big offseason for the Sixers, too. Yo, Embiid, I didn't like those comments that came out of Embiid. Did you hear him? He said, hey, me and Harden, we need help from the other guys on the court. Bro, no, it's you. You're the MVP. The offense is built around you. Stop crying, dog. Anyway, I could go on a little bit more about that, but we've been talking for a lot of time here on the show, covering a lot. We'll be back on Wednesday, guys. Make sure you guys download the Champions Round app, sub to the page, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace out.